Floating in the cold, dark void of space lies a trillion-dollar secret. This is Psyche 16, a massive asteroid overflowing with pure gold and iron. It possesses enough unimaginable wealth to instantly make everyone on Earth a billionaire. But if we ever actually brought this golden mountain back home to Earth, it wouldn't save us. It would trigger the most catastrophic global economic collapse. Our entire global economy and stock markets would instantly collapse into absolute nothingness. To understand this apocalypse, we have to look at the very foundation of economics: supply and demand. Right now, gold is incredibly valuable simply because it is exceedingly rare here on Earth. But if you suddenly dump 10,000 quadrillion dollars of it into the global market, it becomes as common as sand. The price of gold would plummet to absolute zero. This wouldn't just bankrupt jewelers, it would shatter the foundational reserves of every economy. Fortunately, NASA's actual mission to Psyche isn't a cosmic heist, it's a scientific journey. In October 2023, a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket violently tore through the Earth's atmosphere. Its destination is a staggering 2.2 billion miles away, resting in the main asteroid belt. When it arrives in 2029, it will finally orbit the largest metal object we've ever found. Scientists believe this isn't just a rock, it's the dead, frozen heart of an ancient planet. Billions of years ago, colossal hit-and-run collisions violently ripped away its outer rocky crust. By studying this naked metallic core, we can finally understand the center of our own Earth. Without a churning liquid metal core, Earth wouldn't have the magnetic shield that protects us from the sun. Psyche cooled and froze billions of years ago, but it might still hold a ghost magnetic field. To discover its true composition, the probe uses a gamma-ray and neutron spectrometer. By measuring microscopic shifts in radio waves, we will map its exact gravitational pull. Psyche isn't just an asteroid, it is a pristine, frozen time capsule from the dawn of our solar system. Every piece of data it sends back brings us one step closer to understanding how we even exist. While NASA views Psyche as a time machine, private space corporations see the ultimate financial frontier. A new, ruthless space race is already quietly beginning, funded by Silicon Valley billionaires. But mining in zero gravity isn't like digging a hole on Earth. It requires entirely new laws of physics. Instead of heavy pickaxes, swarms of drones will use continuous wave optical lasers to literally vaporize the metal. Powerful magnetic fields will then capture this floating metallic gas, pulling it into orbital processing foundries. This isn't science fiction anymore. The patents to build these cosmic megastructures are being filed today. But before any corporation can claim this cosmic gold rush, they must conquer Earth's invisible prison, the gravity well. It's ruled by the rocket equation. To lift heavier mining equipment into space, you need exponentially more fuel. Currently, launching just one single kilogram of equipment into deep space costs tens of thousands of dollars, and getting there is only half the battle. Bringing millions of tons of refined metal back to Earth is a logistical nightmare. If a cargo pod the size of a skyscraper loses control during re-entry, it becomes an extinction-level meteor. Even if it lands safely, there is absolutely no infrastructure on the planet capable of absorbing a sudden influx of alien iron. To avoid crushing our cities, corporations will build massive orbital space elevators, slowly dripping the wealth down to the surface. But the global economy wouldn't wait for the metal to land. The mere announcement of success would trigger absolute panic. The psychological value of gold would evaporate overnight. Fort Knox would instantly become a museum of worthless yellow rocks. It wouldn't just be gold. The terrestrial prices of iron, nickel, and cobalt would violently flatline globally. Millions of jobs tied to traditional mining, shipping, and logistics would vanish in a matter of hours. The wealth wouldn't be distributed to the masses. It would birth the world's first multi-trillionaire. Governments would suddenly realize they are obsolete. The ultimate high ground is now owned by a single board of directors. To prevent the metal from becoming worthless, this megacorporation would artificially choke the supply, creating a permanent monopoly. Traditional money, dollars, euros, yen would hyperinflate into oblivion. The only currency that matters is orbital iron. This infinite raw material wouldn't be wasted on Earth. It would be used to construct colossal orbital server farms and zero-G factories. Down below, the once mighty financial districts of Earth would be reduced to hollow, echoing monuments of a forgotten era. Psyche isn't the endgame, it's just the gas station for humanity's violent, corporate expansion into the deep solar system. But deep space is a hostile, unforgiving wasteland. To reach the outer planets, humanity must harvest the moons of Jupiter. Water is the new oil. Massive thermal drills will violently crack the frozen crust of Europa to fuel the expanding armada. With infinite iron and infinite fuel, we won't just build ships, we will construct floating artificial worlds. But the human body was never designed for the void. Lethal radiation and microgravity begin to aggressively mutate the workforce. A new class of human is born in the dark, indentured, mutated laborers who will never, ever feel the warmth of a real sun. And billions of miles away from the trillionaires on Earth, absolute corporate control begins to violently fracture. Armed with modified plasma cutters, the indentured miners attempt to seize control of the billion-dollar extraction foundries. But the megacorporations don't negotiate with assets. From comfortable offices on Earth, they simply execute a digital kill switch. In an instant, the artificial gravity is cut, and the massive oxygen scrubbers are permanently vented into the freezing void. The rebellion is silenced in minutes, and the automated mining drones seamlessly return to their endless, unfeeling harvest. Meanwhile, the citizens of Earth remain entirely oblivious, distracted by the cheap, hyper-abundant technology flooding their markets. We traded our humanity for infinite resources. The golden age of space has arrived, but it is painted entirely in blood. But infinite wealth breeds infinite predators. The first trillion-dollar monopoly wouldn't go unchallenged for long. Almost overnight, peaceful, automated mining swarms were aggressively retrofitted. The first orbital arms race had begun. They realized that a single ton of refined iron dropped from orbit was the ultimate weapon, a man-made kinetic meteor. But kinetic bombs were messy. The true corporate war was fought in absolute silence, hijacking rival swarms through malicious code. When these hijacked machines inevitably collided, they created a cascading wave of hypersonic shrapnel, the terrifying Kessler Syndrome. In mere seconds, a multi-billion-dollar orbital foundry is violently shredded into a cloud of useless, drifting debris. The shredded remains of a trillion-dollar industry wouldn't just vanish, they formed a permanent, hypersonic iron halo around Earth. Within hours, this deadly orbital blender shredded every GPS, communication, and weather satellite humanity relied on. The debris field grew so incredibly dense that it literally began to eclipse the sun, casting long, jagged shadows across the continents. The multi-trillionaires who orchestrated this gold rush found themselves trapped on a dying planet, completely cut off from their empire. Without the orbital network, digital banking collapsed instantly. The greatest accumulation of wealth in human history evaporated. We feared that bringing the asteroid to Earth would crash the market. We never realized it would crash civilization. Decades after the collapse, the Iron Halo isn't just a planetary prison. For a desperate few, it is the only gold mine left. These rogue pilots, Halo jumpers, strap themselves into flying coffins, diving directly into the hypersonic shrapnel storm. Their target, the frozen, gutted remains of the original corporate foundries, still holding fortunes of refined metals. It's high-stakes grave robbing in zero gravity. One wrong move, and a rogue micrometeorite instantly vaporizes the ship. But the prize isn't tons of iron or gold anymore. It's a handful of pre-collapse microchips and functioning quantum processors. Down on the ruined surface, a single functioning processor from the Golden Age buys a lifetime of clean water. From the ashes of corporate monopolies rose a new, brutal feudalism. Warlords seized the remaining orbital foundries. By controlling the only stable corridors through the Kessler shrapnel field, these syndicates established the ultimate toll booth. Passage required a devastating toll. Scavengers were forced to surrender the very quantum technology they risked their lives to find. Down below, the starving remnants of humanity refused to die quietly. Hidden deep within ruined stadiums, a final resistance mounted. They fired a massive hypersonic slug, but the corporate dreadnoughts were protected by technology centuries ahead of the scavengers. The warlords' retaliation was instantaneous and absolute. A single, salvaged kinetic rod was dropped to erase the rebellion. The tungsten rod fell with the force of a tactical nuke, instantly erasing the last bastion of human defiance. No radiation, no radioactive fallout, just a miles-wide crater of pulverized concrete and a deafening, absolute silence. With the resistance annihilated, the orbital warlords carved up the ruined continents into absolute corporate fiefdoms. The survivors were herded into massive, toxic labor camps, forced to manually process orbital scrap just to earn their daily water. Miles above the suffocating smog, the Syndicate barons lived like gods in pristine, gravity-simulated orbital palaces. For the billions trapped below, the sky was no longer a frontier of dreams. It was a ceiling of solid iron, but bringing quadrillions of tons of iron into low Earth orbit had a consequence the billionaires never modeled. Gravity, the concentrated mass of the iron halo, violently disrupted the moon's pull, unleashing apocalyptic, miles-high supertides. As the Earth's crust warped under the shifting tides, the foundational anchors of the massive space elevators began to fracture. The indestructible carbon nanotube tethers, the only lifeline to the orbital palaces, violently snapped like cheap thread. Without their planetary anchors, the pristine, gravity-simulated Elysium cylinders were dragged directly into the lethal shrapnel storm. In the end, the cold, unfeeling laws of orbital mechanics proved to be the ultimate, terrifying equalizer. With the sun permanently eclipsed by the iron halo, global temperatures plummeted, plunging Earth into an artificial ice age. Cities that once traded quadrillions of dollars in milliseconds became frozen hunting grounds for the starving remnants of our species. They lived on a planet practically paved with gold and platinum, yet they would trade it all for a single handful of fertile soil. And high above the frozen wasteland, the gutted husk of Psyche 16 continued its silent, mocking orbit. Over the centuries, the orbital shrapnel slowly decayed, raining down as brilliant, lethal, golden shooting stars. A beautiful, terrifying monument to the species that discovered infinite wealth, only to realize they couldn't eat it. Fast forward 10 million years, the toxic dust has settled, the ice has receded, and Earth sits in perfect, undisturbed silence. Into this graveyard enters an intelligence from the deep cosmos, drawn by the unnatural, highly concentrated metallic signature of our dead world. The probe pierces the silent atmosphere, utilizing multispectral scans to bypass the dirt, revealing the rusted skeletons of our financial empires. The alien AI quickly reconstructs our final days. They witness the horrifying paradox of a species that starved to death surrounded by infinite wealth. They don't mine the gold. Instead, they classify the entire solar system as a Class 4 hazard, a permanent monument to biological hubris. Psyche 16 remains in the dark, a silent witness to a civilization that conquered the stars, only to be crushed by a shiny rock. But this apocalyptic timeline hasn't happened yet. It is a predictive model, a warning generated by our own supercomputers. Right now, in the present day, NASA's Psyche probe is quietly cruising through the dark, entirely unarmed. Yet, terrestrial billionaires are already drafting the patterns for extraction, staring hungrily at the night sky. Psyche 16 floats out there right now, an untouched mountain of metal, holding the power to either elevate or erase us. The paradox is simple. Our technological reach has finally, terrifyingly, exceeded our psychological maturity. When the golden age of space mining truly begins, will we share the universe, or will we build our own iron cage? This documentary isn't just a dystopian story. It is a mirror held up to our species at the dawn of the cosmic era. The NASA Psyche probe is flying right now. The countdown to humanity's greatest psychological test has officially begun. Will we use the riches of the cosmos to elevate all of humanity, or will we let greed forge our own orbital chains? The mountain of gold is waiting silently in the dark. How this story ends is entirely up to you. If you are ready to face the future, subscribe. The golden age is coming, whether we survive it or not.